From WXXI News, this is Connections. I'm Julie Philipp, filling in for Evan Dawson. Our connection this hour was made at Lollypop Farm and the approximately 4,000 other animal shelters across the nation. Some say they've reached a breaking point. When you consider that about 3,000 kittens and puppies are born every hour in the U.S. compared to 415 human babies, the reason seems obvious. There will never be enough people to provide a home for every pet. But animal shelters have long been working hard to place as many unwanted or stray dogs, cats, and other animals as they can. Unfortunately, that job is getting much harder for a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with the reproductive cycle. They're facing increasing costs, staffing issues, a shortage of veterinarians, and a host of other challenges. Well, at the same time, the number of animals coming into the nation's shelters has been higher than the number going out for the past several years. And new data from Shelter Animals Count shows a subtle change in where these animals are coming from that could spell even more trouble down the road. Here to talk about all of this, I am joined by Vicky Pape, Lollypop Farm Director of Animal Placement, Wendy Weisberg, founder of Second Hand Dog Rescue, and because dogs and cats are not the only animals in need of homes, Jennifer Lilly from the Begin Again Horse Rescue in Lima, an agency she founded there, is here as well. Thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you.
I would like to start with you, Vicky. The current state of affairs at Lollypop Farm, how does it compare to the other shelters around the nation? Would you say you're at a breaking point?
Yeah, I would say we're close to a breaking point. This year alone, we've taken over 150 more dogs than we've taken last year. And we are booking out our non-emergency appointments all the way to November. So we are just inundated with animals that need our help.
Okay.
And people, because with every animal, there's a person who goes along with it.
Yeah, and we will get into that. So everywhere I go, and I have one as well, you hear, he's a rescue, she's a what kind of dog is that? A rescue. I don't really know what this dog is. It's a rescue. You hear that everywhere. So I'd like to ask Wendy and then Jennifer, what your rescue organization does. And also, are you also at capacity? Start with you, Wendy.
So we take in dogs because we are a dog rescue, although we have helped other species of animals, but for the most part, it's dogs. We have found that the calls to surrender are just constant. It's never ending. I get phone calls in the middle of the night asking if I can help take an animal, and the majority of calls recently have been not just I would need to surrender my dog, but I need to surrender my dog because
we're going to get into the reasons. Are you at capacity? Do you have enough fosters to handle every call, or are you saying no?
We are saying no across the board for large animals. We need more fosters that can take large dogs.
Okay, we're going to get into that too. Jennifer, horses. Are there changes now with horses as well? I don't know how long you've been doing this, but are you at capacity?
We are. Begin Again Horse Rescue started in 2009, so we've been at it for quite a while, and we are actually over capacity. And we try to stay at a certain level, but we do have overflow capabilities for emergency situations. And that has been repeatedly happening this year. We keep a waiting list of horses or of horses that are waiting to come in that are non-emergent, but are definitely need our help. And I can say that we have not been able to intake any horses off of the waiting list for at least the last 4 months because we've had a continuous stream of emergency intakes.
Mm-hmm. And you can't send them out for foster. Do you foster as well? I know dogs and
it's a lot more difficult to foster horses just because of the expense and the space and that is required for a horse. So it's more difficult for a horse home to extend for a short-term foster.
Okay.
So, and honestly, a short-term foster becomes a long-term foster because if we don't have room to bring them in after 2 or 3 months, then, then it's a lot more commitment for those fosters to take on the expense and everything of a horse.
Okay. All right. So Wendy brought this up, the surrendering. Giving up a pet is not something most people anyway, take lightly. According to the Canadian Veterinary Journal, even if people are facing, a financial hardship, most pet owners would cut back on all kinds of other expenses first, including their own groceries, before giving up their pet. But in the most recent Shelter Animals Count report from the ASPCA, there was a slight uptick in the percentage of pets being surrendered by their owners in 2025. Without getting too much into the reasons yet, are you often seeing a lot of an increase in surrenders at Lollypop?
Yeah, so we see an increase in requests for surrenders. Last year we had over 3,000 requests for dogs alone, 7,000 for animals in general. So huge amount of requests, but we also see strays that are coming in. We see our law enforcement dogs that come in through our law enforcement team and the work that they do. So it's not just owners that is putting this strain.
Right.
On
There's
the
a
animals,
lot
yeah.
of other reasons, but
Yeah.
that's the one where they everything else is sort of holding steady. They're still coming in from all those other sources, which
Yeah.
I'll get into, but they did recognize an increase in owner surrenders. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit first. What are the reasons, Wendy? What are some of the stories you're hearing?
Well, I mean, people always call and say, "You've never heard this before," but yes, we have. We certainly have heard that people's housing has changed, their income has changed, their ability to care for an animal, and they accidentally got pregnant, and they have a litter of puppies that are now 6 months old, and they need to get them out of their home. That people have are just finding that they're homeless and that they have no place to live with their animals, and they're living out of their cars, they're living in tents, and they have animals that they love, but they cannot possibly continue to care for. And there's also an uptick of the same thing with Lollipop as we see the cruelty situations. There have been so many dogs that are emaciated and in horrible conditions and medically just completely unstable, that are just being dumped on the streets because people are trying to find a place for them to go, and they can't find a place for them to go, so they're on the street. And we've had dogs that they look like walking skeletons.
Yeah. And I know some of the horses coming to you too. I would imagine, given the economy, people are struggling to pay for groceries, fill up their gas tank, that taking care of a horse is a real challenge. Are you seeing a lot more people struggling economically, bringing you animals that they just can't afford to give proper care to?
Absolutely. I think that's the number one reason why people ask us to take in, to surrender their horses, is because they can't afford them anymore. Besides just the regular of, veterinary care that's always expensive for horses, but while groceries have gone up, so has feed, and so has hay, and everything costs more. And so what they may have budgeted, 5, 6, or 10 years ago when they got this horse, and no longer is feasible. It's not even reasonable. It's like doubled. So we have definitely the economic factor, and then people that do need to move their horses if they move from their homes, they lose their homes. They're moving their homes, and they suddenly have to board their horse. Boarding costs, because of the cost of maintaining a farm and a herd of horses, boarding costs have gone through the roof, and they can't say, I've always been able to afford my horse at home, but I can't afford to board it out.
And so the same challenges you're facing you run your own farms, plus you have the rescue organization. A lot of horse owners are facing the exact same issues. So we heard, after COVID, that all the pandemic pets would start flooding back in. And initially that did not happen. The statistics don't back that up, that, 21, 22, there was suddenly a flood of pandemic pets coming back in. Has that changed? Are you seeing any impact from the COVID pandemic pet craze?
No, I wouldn't say that it's related to the pandemic necessarily. I think our number, what has moved into the number one spot for the reason animals come in is housing, as we've sort of already mentioned here. It's not necessarily in relation to I adopted this pet during the pandemic and now, something has changed. It's just across the board with housing, people facing housing insecurity. And, just to be clear, too, this isn't someone who's saying I'm moving and, well, it's just inconvenient. These are people who've been living in their cars, living in tents, as Wendy was saying, people who maybe the only place to go is a friend or family member's couch, and that person has a dog that's not going to get along with your dog, or really, it's not for lack of trying on most of these owners' parts. They'd really love to keep their pets if they could in most cases.
And Wendy, I spoke to you a little bit earlier, and you said that the impact of COVID isn't necessarily people sending them back in. It's that they didn't get the proper vet care altering during COVID, and now we're seeing the side effects of that.
Yeah. So during COVID, the thing that I see impacting the current situation is that initially everything was shut down. So the vets were told only emergencies, no routine vaccinations, no routine spay and neuters. All those things were put off. So then the people who are getting all these pets that they wanted to have during the shutdown are not able to get the routine vaccinations, the routine spay and neuters, and they're also not getting socialized because they're shut down. So the impact I see kind of cropped up around 2023, 2024, is that people are calling because they had unwanted litters, they had animals that were not socialized and they're biting new people, that now that everything's opened up again, the dogs are not used to all this activity, and so they're biting new people that come to the house. Also, during COVID, everybody got pregnant and had kids. And so the puppies that are turning into adult dogs are now having toddlers running around, and they don't know what to do with them. And, and there has been a huge uptake in behavioral concerns, at least in my experience.
Yeah, we did see those pandemic puppies, too, for a while that hadn't experienced any socialization because the world had shut down.
Yeah. So,
and I've also experienced I just got a call yesterday for a 9-year-old Chihuahua that we adopted out at 9 months 9 years ago, that they want to return now because they just had family changes and they don't want to have the 9-year-old Chihuahua.
Okay. So there's a lot of personal reasons behind every pet. Now, the three of you I'll nod your heads when the other person is talking. You're part of an ecosystem. Can you talk about how Lollypop and the rescue organizations work together? We'll start with you.
Sure, yeah. Well, Lollypop Farm, and myself specifically, is a member of the Greater Rochester Animal Coalition, which is a number of rescue groups that, again, in the Rochester area, obviously. And we get together monthly and talk about problems. We've done vaccine clinics. We've done spay and neuter clinics. So we do provide an effort in that sense to try to get together. But I think one of the things is we're all facing such overwhelming challenges, such as the veterinary shortage, such as housing insecurity, and so some of these problems, getting together for an hour a month isn't necessarily going to solve
everything. And we're going to talk about solutions in the second half of this show. They are not easy. Otherwise, they'd be in place right now, right? So the veterinary shortage, and I would imagine that horses might be even more difficult. As a rescue organization, do you have partnerships with vets that come in and assist for a lower fee or some kind of break for you, or do you have to find a vet that's free and pay? What's the situation like, starting with horses?
Well, at least specifically for us at Begin Again, we work exclusively from our farm with Genesee Valley Equine Vet. And they're the largest strictly equine vet in the Rochester area. And they have 6 vets on staff. And so we don't feel the press of a shortage of care. We have very attentive emergency care and extremely knowledgeable, veterinary attention for our horses. However, we extend our adoptions out 2 hours in all directions from our location in Lima. And so some of the outlying areas, especially down in Allegheny County and south of Buffalo, they have definitely have a problem with getting vets, and they're calling us and saying, we have a minimum standard of care that we expect from all of our animals, and for all of our animals, and so they're saying we can't get a vet to come out here. It's going to take us, 3 months for us to be able to even get vaccinations for our horse or a dental exam, and forget emergency services, because of course emergency services for large animals has to be all on site. So they have to have mobile units.
Yeah.
So it can be very challenging to get to some of these places that are more away from metropolitan areas.
Okay, and we could do a whole show on why there's a veterinary shortage. It's the cost of education and aging workforce, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But with dogs, and we'll start with dogs. How are you and other rescue organizations set up? I know when I adopted a dog, I had to work with a vet that they had a partnership with to get them neutered and everything before I brought them home. Is that
right? We have partnerships. Our main vet is York Animal Hospital, which is out in New York, and they have been excellent for us. We've worked with them for over 8 years, and we have a great relationship with them. They are able to usually fit us in, which is not the norm. We also work very closely with Animal Intermediate Care in Webster and the new DEA that opened in Spencerport. And we also have a very good relationship with Dr. Linda Wright out at Phelps Animal Hospital, who is a foster for us, and she also does veterinary care for us. And we also have worked with Doorbell Vet. And our special arrangement has been with Genesee Community College. They have a vet tech program there, and we have signed a contract with them in order for us to get our pets. We can get them fixed there, and dentals there, and also vaccines there. But we try to get everybody fixed and vaccinated prior to adopting them out. And the problem we've been finding is that people who adopt from us, we require that they are in a contract that they are seen within a week of in order to establish a relationship, and also to get preventative care, because we provide like a month of prevention, but we don't.
And then you turn things over.
Yes, and so
are the adoptors having trouble?
The adopters are having
similar
a lot of trouble,
to the
yes.
horse.
I mean, I have people that tell me they can't get an appointment for months, and so we've had to help sometimes get more prevention and that sort of thing for them.
Okay, and Lollypop Farm, I know you do some of your own veterinary work, correct?
Yeah.
What's the situation there? Yeah,
so we do most of our own veterinary work, but we have been understaffed with veterinarians. We've had kind of 1.5. Our medical director has been trying to retire for a couple years, and I don't think veterinarians are allowed to retire anymore these days.
No. And we laugh, but it's not funny when you are the
true.
owner of a pet. It's a really stressful situation.
But we have also struggled. We do, with adoption, we do a certificate for your first vet visit. And we used to say 14 days, get them there sooner rather than later. And that's just not feasible. And that's gone back a couple of years now that people can't get appointments in that time frame. So if we do have someone that we've sent home on medications, or we provide the first month of flea and tick. So we provide sort of that first month and the first couple weeks. We typically send home 2 weeks worth of medication in hopes that you'll get to your own vet. But it's not irregular to have someone call us and say, I've got an appointment, but it's not till a month out or 2 months out. And in that case, we will provide the medication because we don't want them to go without. But it's definitely a challenge.
Okay, so we've got these very strained agencies, organizations that rely a lot on volunteer power, a lot on not the highest paid employees in the world. What's it like for staff and volunteers right now?
It's stressful. There's a lot of stress on staff because you don't get into nobody's in this to get rich. Everybody's in there just putting their whole hearts into it. Being short staffed is stressful because the work doesn't go away. It just spreads out to other people. We've put out foster pleas left, right, all the time. Dogs, cats, come foster anyone. And the community has their own challenges, so it's hard to get fosters right now as well. So there's a lot of stress in it, but there's also hope. We always try to keep the hope, and we look at the individual stories. That's what keeps me going, anyways. Is when you see someone come in.
I want to talk about some of those in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jennifer, how many hours a week is this taking of your life, and how stressed are your volunteer run, correct?
We are, yeah. We are volunteer run, so we're board of directors owned and run. And they're all volunteers. Of course, volunteers most of them are not retired, and they have full-time jobs or families to run as well. So everybody has different amounts that they can give. Mm-hmm. So myself, if I counted the hours that I spend, not just doing the actual in the trenches work, but I'm answering, like I said, we got a call last night I got a call at 1:30 in the morning that there was a pony and a donkey in the middle of the road, and could we come? And we actually had a representative that went and met the sheriff there.
Okay.
Luckily, we did find its place.
Home.
Yes,
so
it
was
not far from home. It just went on a walk. So, but we were there, because the sheriff's often don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the law enforcement is not, they don't have the resources or education or experience with large animals, so they don't know how to catch a horse or a donkey safely. Mm-hmm. So it is a big strain. We're always looking for volunteers. Besides the volunteers that run this organization, we do have a very small paid staff at our rescue, just for the consistency of care of the horses. We have 3 part-time employees, and they just take turns with the basic care of the horses, but we provide them volunteers so that they're not doing all the shouldering, all the work themselves, the physical work. And so we're always looking for volunteers to help caring for the horses. And also we have a trainer on staff, so more, that can help her and be her assistant as well. Besides the groundskeeping and maintenance and everything else that goes along with a farm, we really utilize a lot of volunteers. And so we always have calls out for volunteers.
Okay. And Wendy, I know that a lot of foster, almost all of them, the reputable ones anyways, have a lot of hoops you need to jump through to be a foster home, to be an adopter. Is there a risk of standards being lowered because there's such desperation right now for foster and adoptee?
That's the challenge I meet. And I have people in the community that are very passionate about animals, and they want to save them all. And we do our best to take in as much as we can, but we can't just take a foster offer that somebody posts on Facebook and be like, here's the animal, and then backtrack and be like, oh my God, you're not the best person to take this animal. Mm-hmm. So it's a challenge because everybody's heart's in the right place. They want to help, but we have to be able to meet standards. And the Department of Agriculture on December 15th of this past year just raised the standards to the ceiling as to what we as rescue organizations and also as Lollypop, and I'm assuming you guys don't have that.
That did not apply to large animals. It went to companion animals
cats,
only.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and then I want to get into that a little bit more. We are talking with Vicky Pape from Lollypop Farm. She's the director of animal placement. Wendy Weisberg, founder of Secondhand Dog Rescue, and Jennifer Lilly, founder of Begin Again Horse Rescue in Lima. We will be right back to talk more about the situation with rescue agencies.
Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from Bob Johnson Auto Group, believing an informed public makes for a stronger community. Proud supporter of Connections with Evan Dawson, focused on the news, issues, and trends that shape the lives of listeners in the Rochester and Finger Lakes regions. BobJohnsonAutoGroup.com.
This is Connections. I'm Julie Philipp, sitting in for Evan Dawson, and we've been talking with Vicky Pape from Lollypop Farm, Wendy Weisberg from Secondhand Dog Rescue, and Jennifer Lilly from Begin Again Horse Rescue. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to contact us, 585-263-9994, or email us at connections@wxxi.org. So we just started talking about some new regulations from the Department of Agriculture. Do you want to explain those?
Yes, I mean they now require there's a lot of paperwork involved, and all the pets we have in our organization need to be seen and examined by a veterinarian every 6 months. So the fact of the matter is we have at least 20 to 30 dogs that have been long time residents of our care, and seeing them every 6 months is just a feat in of itself, just to get them seen. And a lot of times they don't necessarily need vaccinations, but they once a year they need a 40X test, which is a test for tick and heartworm, in order for them to continue our prevention.
So are these new things or just expanded?
Yeah, so the standards are new. They went into effect in December, as Wendy said. So there is a lot of paperwork. There is, some new standards that are going to be a little bit challenging to meet. I think it was definitely time to put some standards in place. But, I know the specifics of it. Some of them are challenging.
And having it come at this time in the world, where everything is kind of coming together all at the same time. So let's talk about fostering. What is a foster family expected to do?
In terms of fosters for us, they are expected to provide a safe home, to keep all the pets on a leash or in a fenced-in yard at all times. We provide all the equipment they need, although it's nice if they would purchase food and that sort of thing. But for the most part, we provide all the equipment, and we can provide food and prevention and all that. And we have events that we have on a fairly frequent basis. If they can please bring their animals to those events, if they're appropriate for those events.
To try to get them adopted out.
Get them adopted out.
So, and does Lollypop do fostering as well?
Oh, yeah. Okay. We have a huge list of fosters. We have upwards of 500 people on our list. Not that 500 animals are in foster at any given time. Okay. At any given time, we have around 150 to 200 animals in foster care that we are responsible for, have custody of, and are taking care of. We do provide all of the food, any supplies you need. Again, if someone wants to provide their own, we certainly will not turn that down.
Right.
But our expectations are similar, but we a safe, clean home, and transporting them back and forth to veterinary appointments. We don't do the offsite events as much. But
because you have Lollypop Farm,
right?
So,
right.
But what happens if the foster pet is never adopted? Does that mean the foster parent has that animal for the rest of its life, or do you take it back? What happens? Or a combination of that? Well,
in our case, if a foster is unable to continue to foster, then we will take the animal back and try to place it into a different home. They're not stuck. We don't ever want anybody to feel stuck fostering. We even need people, for example, right now is everybody's going on vacation and everything like that. So we are shuffling dogs around and figuring out where to put them. And we need short-term fosters. We need long-term fosters. One thing that we have developed, and I don't know if you want me to step in with it now, but we have a forever foster
Yeah,
program.
we're going to get into that when we
Yeah.
get into some solutions. So
Yeah.
we're in a bit of a catch-22 here because, you find homes for pets, and then people keep breeding them. The puppy mills are still in existence. Mine is from an Amish farm in Ohio. So, someone decides, one litter isn't going to hurt, or one foal isn't going to hurt. I just want to do it this once, have that experience. But when you think of how many animals are in the world, what has to give here?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, one of the things that we do need to see is there's a lot of rental properties that are just flat out no pets. And there's ways to make sure you're working with responsible pet owners, but looking into some of those to allow families to stay together. And also the irresponsible breeding. I think that a lot of, I get a lot working at Lollypop Farm as long as I have I'm sorry, I have a pet from a breeder. We're not anti-breeder. There's great breeders out there. But it's the breeding without thought for the genetics, without thought for the behavior, and not keeping track of where your puppies are going or what they're doing. So it's the irresponsible breeding that we see more of a challenge than
Is that an
just
industry
breeding in
that needs
general.
to be more regulated?
It's impossible to regulate.
It would be nice.
Yeah,
Impossible?
I would say it's impossible to regulate because animals are living things and they reproduce without you doing anything at all. It would be nice if we could, if a litter is produced by somebody, it would be great if somehow they have to be microchipped and attached to that person for life. And if that dog ever ends up in a shelter or in a rescue or lost, that microchip gets the person that produced that dog, and then they'll
Go
cat
right to
goes
the
back,
source.
Right back,
go
yeah.
back to the
Right,
source.
right, yeah.
Because as Vicky was saying, I mean, breeding is not the actual problem. It's the unregulated, unreputable breeders. I mean, you have breeders out there that will drive across country to pick up a dog and bring it back to their program. Those are not the people that we're having problems with. It's the people that think they can make a buck.
That are maybe in it more for the money than
And it's really not money making. I just had a 12-year-old dog a week and a half ago that the person who got them saw the dog getting bred. I offered, because of my foster is a next door neighbor, I offered a spay abort for this dog, and the person said, no, I want her to have the puppies. And then fast forward, we're at an emergency vet spending $4,000 because the dog had puppies stuck and no viable puppies came out of it. A 12-year-old dog went through horrific situations, and
So for dogs and cats, one of the main things to get more fosters is just to have more landlords are a little more open to allowing pets in the buildings. You're not going to have that same solution for horses. What do you need to see to find more homes for these animals?
Well, we also have a foster program. We actually, our adoption is actually a foster. So we retain ownership of all our horses.
Okay.
It's the only legal way that we could say this horse can never be sold or given away in the future, because that's what happens with horses a lot, is their usefulness is done with that family and they sell them or they give them away. We can vet the adopter as, to the ends of the earth, but we can't say what
they're going to do
with it. So by retaining ownership of the animal, then we have control over that legally. So our adoption contract is actually called a permanent lease agreement.
Okay.
And then we have our foster programs. We have two of them. We have a short term and a long term. So the short term is if someone can offer a horse, say, training or extra TLC care that we might be stretched to be able to provide, then they'll keep the animal and it's available for adoption while it's in their care. And then we have another foster program that is for more, I don't want to say end of life, but these senior horses that are less adoptable, they're not rideable anymore. They're just pets. They might be higher maintenance because they don't have teeth. They need more food or they need medications. And so with those horses, then we actually pay all medical bills on those horses and they pay all routine costs. just their everyday farriers and dewormings and feedings. But we pay any veterinary costs, including the euthanasia and removal, which is a big expense in horses. You can't just take them to the vet and have them euthanized, and disposed of.
So are there any solutions that would make your life easier that would help find homes for these horses?
Really, we're dealing with a much smaller pool of people that are suitable homes. We have a very extensive screening process, including multiple visits. We do home visits to every single farm that is going to adopt our horses. Our volunteers drive 2 hours each way to go see these farms. So because we have such a stringent screening process, and it is a small pool of people, it's just exposure. It's just letting
Just
more people in the horse
educating people.
world know that rescue horses aren't all broken. We have some wonderful horses that go on to be really successful.
I've seen some stories on your website, so I want to get into those stories. But I want to go back to Wendy because I know that among the most difficult pets to place are older, just like she said, aging horses, but aging dogs, large dogs are also hard to place.
Right, and especially dogs too that need to be maybe the unicorn single dog, no other pet dogs, and we wanted to, instead of making it a barrier, we wanted to open up a pathway for people who might have all the heart for a dog, all the love for a dog, but maybe not the financial ability to have a dog. And we have somewhere around 20 dogs in our rescue right now that qualify for our Forever Foster program, where they can be adopted by a family. But again, we retain ownership, just like beginning
The horses.
the horses, and we provide all the veterinary care. They just have to provide like the incidentals, like we just ask that they provide like the food and treats and that sort of thing and toys. But we provide all the equipment. We will transport the animals to the vet. We will, if they go on vacation because of their
So you're going to support the pet owner financially and otherwise
for
to
the
help
entire
make that
lifetime
work.
of the pet.
So right,
yeah.
and I imagine Lollypop Farm has a number of creative type solutions to get animals into homes as well.
Yeah, we have similar to like a hospice foster, we call it, for a pet who is aging, and that's usually throughout their life. We do fosters for animals that are available for adoption, so they can wait that time while they look for a home in foster care. We have several different opportunities for all kinds of creative things, but we also still really struggle with the larger dogs, and especially those who can't have other pets in the home. And sometimes seniors will grab at somebody's heart. So I wouldn't necessarily say seniors are particularly the hardest. We're really struggling with those maybe 1 or 2 year old who have a lot of energy and haven't had any training
Not
yet.
quite grown up
and
yet.
they're ready to have a bulldozer come through your home, but in the most loving way possible. And we know they're going to be just gems with just a little rounding on the edges. So
some behavioral. Do you provide behavioral type supports as well?
Yeah. So we have behavioral support for our adopters in several different ways. Every adoption has, we partner with a group called Pet Academy, which is a virtual 24-hour support. And then we also have our own behavior team. So you're, depending on the specific animal and the specific animal's need, you may be partnered with a behavior team member right off the bat, or you may have Pet Academy. And then if you have something that you need to speak to someone in person, then we connect you. But yeah, and that's, you can call us for that behavioral support at any time throughout the pet's life. We also have partners that we recommend in the community that we know specialize in certain things. So lots of different options.
Okay. But, you're providing veterinary care, you're providing support, none of this is cheap.
Yeah.
Where is the money coming from?
Well, in Beginning End's case, we're very grassroots, and it's just feet on the ground. All of our income comes from fundraisers and donations. We actually 8 years ago, we started Begin Again Tack Shop, and it is probably the largest used store for horse equipment and supplies in New York State now. It's grown so huge. We have a 12-room farmhouse that came with our farm, and we have turned almost the entire house. Besides,
and this is in Lima.
This is in Lima, right on our farm, and it is everything in it is donated. So the entire horse community from Buffalo to Syracuse and south, they drop. We have a donation room, and people drop off things all the time. Sometimes really valuable saddles and harnesses and carriages we get, and all sorts of products, clothing, artwork. So that actually, just that store alone made us $80,000 last year.
So there's a lot people can do short of adopting a horse or fostering a horse
absolutely.
to support you.
And then we do fundraisers all year. We try to do at least one fundraiser a month. In the fall, we've got our biggest fundraiser, which is a brunch and silent auction at the Wildwood Country Club in Rush. And so that's we're collecting donations, silent auction items for that all the time. But it's a constant feet on the pavement, pushing with our hand out, just like all not-for-profits are doing. And it's there's a lot of, I hate to say that there's a lot of competition between them, because we don't want to compete with it. Everybody has the same heart and is doing the same good work. So but there's only so much to go around.
And I would imagine that's a huge issue, because it seems like every day I find out about another dog rescue organization, and they're all doing fundraisers and events and seeking fosters. Are you seeing a lot of, I don't want to call it competition, but it is.
There is sometimes competition. I mean, I would like to say, we belong to groups that have chats going on Facebook and text chains, that sort of thing. And there's at least 8 to 12 other rescues that we work with very closely. If we get a surrender request, we put it out there to them. Can you help this dog? Or I will come and I could transport this dog for you if you guys can maybe intake this dog. And like we have a cooperative with Buddy Love Rescue. In October, we're going to be doing a big fundraiser with Rock Strong Club out in Webster, and we're going to have workout with the puppies. The puppies are going to run around and while you work out with them, and we're going to have vendors and that sort of thing. And that's just one of many fundraisers that we are doing.
So it's all donation based.
Yeah, and basically whatever I make pretty much goes into the dogs. I don't really have anybody that I have to take care of myself, and everybody's always yelling at me to take care of yourself, Wendy. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first. But when you're doing dog rescue, you just try to just stretch whatever you have as much as you possibly can. And any kind of rescue, really.
Does Lollypop Farm have, do you get grants, government funding, things like that?
We do get grants, but not typically government funding or grants. On occasion, we'll get one here or there. Some of those are in the news, and I know it feels like Lollypop's always fundraising. We are always fundraising. And I think, one thing I go back to is you may see on our telethon we raised X amount or we got a grant for this amount, but we're taking care of thousands and thousands of animals every year. And so when you go back to the veterinary bills and the cost of caring for all of those, that's what it all goes to.
Okay. So it's in addition to finding homes and all of the challenges you're dealing with, fundraising and a difficult economic time is another one of them. So we have, not quite 10 minutes left, but I would love to talk about some of the good things that are happening. One story in particular caught my attention on your website, the Begin Again Horse Rescue, and that was Timmy.
Timmy. That was quite a few years ago now.
It's on the top of your list of. Could you tell that story, and then if you have another one you want to throw in as well, like a real nice success story about an animal that found a home.
Timmy was a horse that was surrendered to us. the people that had the horse, we don't know where they got the horse from, but they had the horse, and the horse was not thriving with them. They couldn't afford to feed it, needed more food than they could feed it, needed more than the average horse, and he was. They were in a very muddy area, and they had no place to keep him out of the mud, and his skin was infected, and he wasn't getting the care that he needed. And so we took in the horse, as we would, and we found the horse had a lot of physical problems. Some of them were just due to his age and his status in life. Some of them were due to the environment that he had been living in, a neglectful environment. They weren't able to provide for him. So we put the horse back together and gave him the health. I think we had him for a good 6 months before he really was starting to bloom. He was an older horse. We could tell that this horse had had a lot of training and care at one point in his life. But we had no clue about where he came from. And we got a call one day from someone that says, "I think you have my horse. I've been searching for him for 4 years." She had given the horse, it was her daughter's show horse. He was an AQHA quarter horse that had been shown at Congress level, and it was her
Which
daughter's.
is high in the horse
very,
world.
very high level of showing, and it had been her daughter's, and he had developed some lameness issues, so they retired the horse, and he was just living out his days with them. Well, they had a neighbor that had an autistic child, and who loved horses, and so they gave the horse, lent the horse, no contract involved. To this family. And a year goes by, and they said, we haven't heard from Timmy's people. Let's check up. And the people were gone. Oh. And they had no idea where the horse had been given to, where he went, what had happened to him. And she was searching for him
4 years.
For 4 years. And they saw him up for adoption on our website. And she called and burst into tears.
I hope she took him, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. She came right out the next day. And she and her daughter, who was then grown, and they just fawned over him, and they took him home, and he lived out the rest of his days.
So it's stories like that really make this worth it, right? Before we go around the room a little bit more, we do have an email from Alex in Webster who's hoping one of you can help him out a little bit. We rescued a cat from the city when the owners of the facility were the people who were feeding him banned the residents from feeding the cat. He was chipped. The vet and I both reported it on the CHIP website. The owner never got in touch with us or the vet to claim the cat. Now the cat is like a person without a country. We have possession but not ownership of the cat. Many vets won't treat him for liability reasons. How do I update the information associated with the chip to be my contact info? Or do I have to see a vet who will treat the cat to put in a new chip? Anyone know?
Yeah, so the complicated answer is it may depend on the chip company. If he wants to email me at vpape@lollypop.org, I'm happy to help him navigate that. But most of the chip companies, some of them, you have to put in a request, and after 30 days, if there's no contact, if the other owner hasn't reached back out, then you can update the information. Some of the chip companies have some different processes to go through, but most of them do have a process for you to transfer ownership. So I'm happy to have you share my contact information.
With, right? Not
it is
you,
something
right?
we've dealt with, yes, but it does depend a little bit on the chip company. And after a certain amount of time, that pet can be considered abandoned and then rehomed. So.
Okay, so there is a path out. The cat can have a country.
Yes.
Yeah. So
the question is, do they want to keep the cat?
vpape at lollipop.org. Lollipop.org. All right, a success story from you, Wendy.
I mean, there are so many. I mean, one of the ones that always just goes to heart, and of course I'm going to cry possibly.
Oh, you're going to make us all cry.
I know.
We had rescued a dog that was going to be euthanized in a shelter, and he was completely unhandleable. He could not have a collar on. He could not have a leash on. We got him into the house by carrying the crate into the house, and for 3 years he lived without being collared or leashed. We were able to touch him. He slept on my bed with me next to my head. His name was Sarge, and he ended up getting adopted by a wonderful lady.
Oh, good. So Sarge
and-
has a home.
And he has a home.
Thanks to you.
She now has gotten him used to a collar and a leash, and she does great things with him.
Okay, good
Yeah.
for Sarge. So we have about a minute and a half, so there's time. What have you got
Try
for
to
us
be
to leave
quick.
us on a sort of positive note?
Well, I'll just go. One of our most recent, we had a case that some people may have heard of with over 60 Chihuahuas. And one of those Chihuahuas, unfortunately, they're very fearful. He slipped out of his foster home. They're tiny little Chihuahuas. And he was actually on the run for over 30 days. And the Rescue Treasures trapping team, we partnered with them. We worked really closely with him. And to wrap it up quickly, he needed some medical support, obviously, when he was found. But he is now home with one of those trapping team members, and she calls him Andy. And it's slow going because he's experiencing a whole new world, but he is just as spoiled as anyone could be.
Good for him. So the 60 Chihuahuas, and Chihuahuas I was surprised, are like the top dog that is brought into a shelter for some reason, and we don't have time to get into that, but how are those 60 Chihuahuas doing today?
Yeah, so they're in varying places. We had a lot of rescue groups that stepped up, thankfully, because dogs like that do take some extra time. They take some extra patience, and the shelter is not really the best place because it's loud, and for a dog who's been through a situation like that, it can be terrifying. But they are doing great. Most of them have found homes now. All of the ones we had have found homes, and it takes a patient adopter, but they're on their way.
You're on their way. All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been really informative and helpful, especially to Alex, who owned the Chip Cat. But we are out of time. We've been talking with Vicky Pape from Lollypop Farm, Wendy Weisberg from Secondhand Dog Rescue, and Jennifer Lilly from Begin Again Horse Rescue and Tech Shop in Lima. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. And thank you to our great production team. Have a wonderful afternoon.
This program is a production of WXXI Public Radio. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, management, or underwriters. The broadcast is meant for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or use in another medium without expressed written consent of WXXI is strictly prohibited. Connections with Evan Dawson is available as a podcast. Just click on the Connections link at WXXInews.org.